All right, everyone. Hello, this is Cassandra Williamson coming to you from Mud Lick. Yeah, that's the name of this place, Holler. Yeah, that's how we pronounce it around here. It's yeah, spelled Hollow. But back here in Appalachia, we have our own way of saying things. Yes, we do. As a matter of fact, it is so shocking that I worked so hard to try to change the way I speak so that others wouldn't couldn't be able to identify where I'm from. But years later, after I had been away for many years, someone came up to me and said, "Where are you from? Eastern Kentucky or northeastern Tennessee?" And I said, "Oh my God, I worked so hard. I tried to sound like Tom Brokaw in high school." Yeah, I came close, but it never worked. Anyway, so we have a big parade coming up this Saturday, folks, in D.C. Are y'all excited about that? A big military parade is set to occur in D.C., supposedly honoring the Army's 250th anniversary, but it's also the 248th anniversary of Flag Day, which was in, I don't know, June 14th of 1777, when the Second Continental Congress wrote a resolution saying this will be our flag. Yes, indeed. But we all know that that's not really what this parade is all about, right? Because we have the current president, number 47, who, when he was number 45, actually put in and tried to get a parade, a big military parade on deck in D.C. back then. But the military then turned him down. They had more power and more people in there to actually kind of calm down all the extremes that this president is capable of. Yeah. So right now, what we have is a president who is getting his way. He's got people across every agency in the executive branch of the federal government. He's got people everywhere helping him accomplish his vision for this country. And it's unlike any that you have seen in probably more than 140 years here in this country. The last time we had someone, well, hold on one second. Oh, excuse me. Sorry about that. So we have this thing that's called, back in the 1880s to 1913, it was the social Darwinism, and the oligarchs and all the people who ran the big corporations like Carnegie Mellon, Carnegie, Rockefeller, the Standard Oil, and the railroads and all that kind of stuff, and all the textile industries, all these huge, powerful men who controlled all of those industries felt entitled to be there. They felt like they had the power to be able to do whatever they wanted, and they felt they were entitled to do it because, well, they were there. They had successfully navigated all of this and became the top of the crowd. Okay, so, and they felt that they were actually entitled to do it. That's what we're seeing, is a return of the Gilded Age under the Trump presidency, and a lot of people are liking that. A lot of people do like what he's doing, and I get it. A lot of my family do, right here in Eastern Kentucky, right here in this house, where I'm actually an invited guest back in the house to try to help take care of my mom, sister, and brother, who, by the way, are doing all right, relatively speaking. My cousin's doing all right too. But anyway, so this is what we have going on here, is that the social Darwinism has been changed, and a psychologist that's over on X calls it hereditarianism in order to avoid the term Darwinism. I think that's primarily what it's all about. But really what he's talking about in hereditarian revolution, he mentions that a few times. Just means you're entitled to take over and do it because, well, you're there. So you're entitled. So everybody else is beholden to you. That's what that's all about, folks. But the gilded stuff that Trump loves so much, the golden offices, the golden towers, the golden toilets and the golden showers. Oh, wait a minute. I didn't mean to throw that one in there. That's a myth, right? Who said that? Anyway, no. Okay. So we have this big parade this weekend. There's a couple of ways we can deal with that. There's a couple of things that we can do. One is, a big thing we could do is boycott that, not give it any kind of air, not participate in it in any way, not do anything to amplify that and give it wings to fly. But the drawback to doing that is, one, particularly if it's media that does this, the left media or the right media that ignores this big parade in DC, well, you'll become the ammunition used by the right to attack those who didn't participate in this self-aggrandizement that Trump wants. And that's what he wants. Now, look, there are plenty of Republicans out there and Democrats out there who are veterans who do not want this thing to happen, but it's going to happen. You can clamor all you want now. It's too late to stop it. It's going to happen. And a lot of veterans, regardless of party, are really pissed about this thing because you know why? We don't do that. We don't need to go around and showing off our massive phallic symbols, like missiles and those pencil phalluses on the front of the tanks. That's what this thing's all about. Trump needs validation. His masculinity needs it. His power, the strong man image that he has of himself, needs that kind of validation. But look, he comes by it honestly, all right? He is one of those social Darwinists who achieved great power and money in his business enterprises and people and not paying all the contractors off and stuff like that. Yeah, he did that. You don't think so? Just look back through his record. What's left of it, if he hasn't purged it. But anyway, so what I'm saying is, leaders at the top of some of these industries got there by being kind of business authoritarians. There's a lot that you have to do to play politics within your businesses to get there. But if you own this thing and you build the business up yourself, then you have the right and authority and actually the responsibility to lead it. And that typically means being the boss. Even though that's not the way our country is set up. Our country was never set up in that kind of thing. It was a collaborative thing that was kind of combative. We challenge each other's ideas and all that and have an intellectual conversation about that. One would hope, which typically doesn't happen. We end up getting in fisticuffs, or we end up, having a duel like Burr and Hamilton. Not anymore, thank God. So this is a very combative system that we have, but it is by no means designed to be an authoritarian type. Washington knew that. He knew as a general that he had responsibilities in the army that required him to be an authoritarian, but he did it in such a way that lifted the troops up and made them successful. But he only did that, though, because he actually brought in Polish General Casimir Pulaski to help with the cavalry, who happens to be, as we now know, intersex at the very least, which is just fascinating. But anyway, but he knew that Washington knew that he couldn't take that kind of way of operating the military and transfer it into the operation of the civilian government. He didn't want a king. He didn't want to have a system that rolled over to another family member or become hereditary kind of thing, He didn't want that. They didn't want that. That wasn't the way the thing was set up. It was to get rid of those things and enable and empower the people. Authoritarianism doesn't allow the people to have an expression within that system. And that's what we're seeing right now. They want to clear out all the ideas they disagree with across the whole Trump administration. You're not going to be able to say anything that has to do with sexual orientation, gender identity, abortion, transgender, especially right now, or even women in the military. I mean, it's getting to that point. I mean, this is what we have right now, is that we have someone who is cleaning the house to make it look like a business that he is running. And they're supposed to be distinct, but it's not going to happen like that. So you have Trump, President Trump, number 47, President Trump. Yeah, he's duly elected president of the United States. Whether you like it or not, that's the case. There's some good stuff that he's doing, right? I mean, if you're honest with yourself and you're left leaning, but if you're honest with yourself, you know there are some good things that he has been doing. But you also know that there are some horrible things that seem to outweigh just about everything else he's done. But that comes from perspective, though. See, my perspective is veteran and a trans person. I use trans. I hate to even use that word, but everybody knows it. You can. All you have to do is listen to the Marine Corps voice and see who I am. Right. Or that there's a disconnect. Just ignore that. That's well trained. I have fun with it. So Trump likes all of that kind of power and that entitlement to being in positions of power and money. Why do you think he has all the golden offices? You see him in all these places with the gold, glittery, shiny stuff all around him, and he's turned the Oval Office into this gilded office that represents what he has in his mind of being an entitled leader, someone who should be capable in his mind of passing this stuff right on to his kids. That's exactly what he wants to do. But how do I know that? Well, just look at what the Qataris did with that big jet. It was a royal family jet. Trump loved it. Why? Because it was a royal family jet. It validates him. Just like the parade on Saturday validates him. But it also validates all those other men out there and the people in the country who look up to a strong man leader and let that leader make decisions that they have come to trust. And they kind of abdicate their responsibilities to kind of, slow it down a little bit and have thoughtful discussions about things. Yeah, not going to happen. Not going to happen. But it's not going to happen. You know why? Because Fox News is being employed to try to figure out a way to give the president his daily briefings in a news format because he doesn't read. Yeah, truth. But there are other people who latch onto this kind of authoritarianism and actually love it too. They look up to that. They respect that. And that's fine if you do. That's great. That's great if you do. That's great if you do. And Jesse Waters, I'm calling him out specifically, sits there on the 5 with his legs all spread out, and there is no reason for him to sit there like that. Every time I watch that show, and I do watch the show, he's sitting there like he's got something down there that is worth actually, you need a microscope, apparently. Jesse. He thinks he is the man's man, the person who is actually out there telling men how to be men. Don't cross your legs. Don't use straws, Make sure that you have a Trump-approved collar. And that's a true story, too. Trump gave him a shirt with the right collar shape and design on it while they were playing golf one day. Down at Mar-a-Lago. Oh, my God. But Jesse's also the one going around saying, now, somebody asked him a question one night. They sent in something. So how do we handle s'mores as men? Do we help fix them, or can we fix them in the oven, or do we have to do it on the grill or out on a fire somewhere? And Jesse said, no, it's all right for men to do it on the grill and out on the fire, but we have no business doing anything in the oven. Oh my God. I have never in my life heard such sophomoric crap coming from the 5 than that line of thinking. And the others on the team, the women and the men, are going, "Yay, Jesse. Yay, Jesse." And Jesse's just sitting there like, I got this. Yeah. No, you don't, Jesse. Everybody else feeds his little ego, just like everybody in the country who supports Trump are feeding his ego too. I'm going to show up for that parade. So how are we going to address this parade, folks? What are we going to do about it? Well, the first thing I mentioned earlier was we take it and boycott the thing. Don't show up. Don't give it air. Be respectful, because the Army is 250 years old. and the Flag Day, is 248 years old. Those things are valid. And President Trump's birthday is valid as well. There's no reason why we can't celebrate a birthday of a president. But we know that this parade is centered on Trump's birthday more than anything else. And he's going to make it look like, and everybody's going to tell you that this is all about the parade and all about the Army and that kind of thing. You're going to hear it incessantly. The Army is 250 years old. But you're going to find that when Trump opens his mouth, he's going to say, hey, the Army is 250 years old today, but let me tell you about this thing that happened in 2020. Or let me tell you about what's going on in LA and why we need this strong army. We've got these phallic symbols rolling up and down our street out here earlier, Right. We already know what President Trump is doing, stoking his ego, and he has got the power. He's got people in position of authority who can accomplish that for him. As a matter of fact, when you see the cabinet, the president's cabinet sitting around the table and having a conversation that's in public with everyone, you know what you see? You see one brown noser after another. You don't see anyone up there offering any kind of constructive criticism or suggestions. You know why? Because they know they have their job at his pleasure only. And they could be fired. Yeah. You don't upset the authoritarian. You don't upset the strongman, boss leader, president of our country. Now, come on. I mean, he's got a very thin skin. Very thin skin. Trump is thin-skinned. I'm just going to start calling him thin-skinned Trump. That's what we got. Thin-skinned Trump. It's almost transparent. So, beyond boycotting, you can also just go there and enjoy the parade. That's absolutely correct. You can go there. There are people who enjoy this parade, this idea of the parade, and the fact that Trump is the president. So go there and enjoy it. There's also those of us who will protest at any given opportunity over that, because the parade is nothing that this country should ever be doing. We don't need to be showing our hardware off to the whole darn world. It's just craziness to do that. To me, I told my brother this morning, I said, look, the only thing missing in the parade would be, several missile launchers going down the road with the missiles all sticking up in the air at like 30 degrees. Like that going down Constitution Avenue. And he said, yeah, I'd love to see that. And I'm thinking, it reminds me of the Soviet Union and Kim Jong-un and his parades. That's what that reminds me of. These people needed validation. Trump needs validation. But the other things you can do is this. Do I need to say more about that? That's Tiananmen Square, China. The single person standing down here was a defender of a republic, constitutional republic. That's what they wanted, a democracy in their country. And then you've got the oppressive strongman back here, the strongman communist China, staring down this man standing up there who all he wants is just freedom. He doesn't like the oppression that his government is foisting upon him. Now, we could do the same kind of thing in D.C. That would suck the air out of this parade like crazy. It would take over the news waves. It would be the talk for a week at least, maybe 15 minutes. I don't know. But it would definitely be something that would be talked about. You would suck the wind out of this whole thing of honoring and kind of feeding into Trump's ego. The 250th anniversary of the Army, great. Very proud of them. 248th anniversary of the Flag Day, absolutely fantastic. Love it. Stoking Trump's ego with a big parade like this, don't love it. It goes against everything we know and trust and actually believe in this country. And here's what this is being turned into. There's another article, an article I just read before I started this show today. It's on ABC News. and it's from ABC News. There's no particular reporter listed with this, but there was a truck at Fort Bragg the other day. There was a truck, a merchandise truck on Fort Bragg selling Trump merchandise on the base. That is wrong. Period. Wrong. Trump merchandise sold at Fort Bragg for President's speech. It's now under review, though. The Army's looking at it, but you know what's going to happen? I can tell you really quickly what's going to happen. Pete Hegseth is going to go, well, he's the president. He can do what he wants, and we should allow him to do it. That's basically what they're doing, is weakening all of the things that make our military apolitical. Not political, not left or right, but apolitical. If they were selling that merchandise at Fort Bragg, somebody had to let them on the base. The Trump administration had to be the one that said, hey, come on, you can do that. Somebody let them through the gate. Sure did. Let me go back up to my main screen here. So, my gosh, there's so much going on in this country right now. I mean, it's just goofball crazy stuff. You got a president who feels entitled to be there, who needs his ego stoked by all of the brown nosers on his cabinet, who needs his ego stoked by having a military parade on his birthday. You got a president who has his ego stoked when Qatar offers an airplane that used to be the family's royal jet. People and different leaders from around the world coming into the office and saying, what a great leader you are. What a great leader you are. What a great leader you are. And then the next thing that he does is slams them for saying something 15 years ago about him. This man holds a grudge forever. So here's a comment from my cousin. You take Jesse Waters too seriously. I think he's just being funny and isn't serious in what he says. Well, I don't know. I could be taking him too seriously. I could be, but he also repeats it again at the other time of the night too. What is that? When he does his 8 o'clock show on Fox as well, all this stuff gets repeated and it gets picked up and all over the place. I don't know. I'm kind of inclined to think that he actually believes this stuff. It's so sophomoric. I mean, sophomoric is probably too strong a word. It's more like infantile almost. I don't know. It's crazy. What do y'all think? Anyway, good old Jesse Waters. Yep. He and I have had. I try to get them to talk to me on X. They won't. I try to get Doug Collins of the Secretary of the VA to talk to me. They won't. I try to get the White House to talk with me, and they won't. Hey, I will ask. You never know unless you ask, right? And yeah, it's possibly that you don't need to be taking me too seriously either. But sometimes I'm very serious. But I try to interject a laugh or two in there because I have no other response that actually works very well because it's such oh my God, oh my goodness. Anyway, come back at 6 this evening. I got to go to Lowe's and pick up some Cabot wood seal and stain.